Okay, so here I am. It's about 8 o'clock at night. Finally back in the shop. I've got the Vitesse head open, and I'm inside the 2-watt Verdi inside of that. And boy, have I discovered a problem. See it on the bottom? That's not supposed to be there. And I think the lens is not correctly positioned. I think it's tilted too far back. I don't know. Maybe it was always supposed to be like that. Maybe this particular component was always dirty like that, but I get the feeling that Coherent wouldn't ship an optic that looks like that. So very clearly there, maybe someone opened this up before. Okay, let's zoom back out here. Yeah, see how big this is, how close it is to the front of the cover. That's the output end of it. So I wonder if somebody opened this up. When they pulled that off, they smacked the output collimator and knocked it off its mount, and then tried to glue it back on. But when they did that, they got glue or epoxy all over the front surface of that lens. This might require a little more mojo than I hoped, but considering a replacement is almost $100 grand, even if it cost me $1,000 to put it back together, I think we are very much so ahead of the game. I did purchase an additional Vitesse head, but it has no cover on eBay, and it should be here in a couple weeks. That might give me some replacements, some spares. I may be able to just take this whole LBO assembly out and drop in a new one and do a little bit of alignment and get the output optimized. And likewise, for this guy, I may be able to just steal the one that's on that particular laser head, and it sort of might be good enough. The other big problem I ran into, which is what really sparked this video, was inside of the LBO oven. I was looking at the crystal, and it's actually so oxidized and corroded. There's pieces falling off of it. You see on the bottom of the chamber there. I tried to poke it out. It will not move. It is seized in there. It has expanded, and it will not move outside of this enclosure, which means I'm going to have to get a little more creative with getting it out of that enclosure. So I hope there's a solution for this. I hope it doesn't involve me having to build some kind of jig to melt the solder on these optics and reposition them, because that would be terrible. Okay, so I was really trying to not take this out of the mount, right out of the laser, but it is so euchred. I mean, you can see that top hemisphere on the crystal? Yeah, it's being held in there by the crystal, which has, like, I don't know, corroded itself, glued itself to the top hemisphere. That's a problem. So I couldn't get the crystal out because of that. Like, this whole assembly wouldn't slide out. So I'm gonna have to, like, basically bust it apart. Like, I don't really know how to get it out otherwise. So I'm going to stick a pair of tweezers in there and pry it apart until it slides out. But yeah, did not need to take both ends off now that I have it out, but it's way easier. In theory, you could just take one cover off, one side of this assembly off. There's like these little metal plates, which I assume are for sort of distributing the heat evenly along the length of it. And there's little nuts in there, which, this one, there, see that thing? The hex-shaped nut with the hole in the middle of it? Those are what kind of go in these loops. And they screw into these pieces here, and those pieces go on the faces like that, and they screw in with other screws into the surface of it. And then there are these little tiny sort of wedge-shaped things, okay? And they are little bushings that go in between the heating housing. See it up there on the top, between the top of the plastic housing and the metal? So there's one on this side. It hasn't fallen out yet. It goes in the bottom hole. And in the very top hole, there should be another one of those little bushings. And that's what this is. So I'll have to remember to put that back in it later when I reassemble it and hopefully find a crystal that fits it. So given that the crystal, the length I don't think is hugely important. It's just the cut has to be right and the size has to be able to fit in the mount. So as long as I get the right size, left to right square, probably a couple millimeters, and I have something that's the same length as those metal hemispheres in there, we're going to get away with this. This is going to work. It has the right coatings on either side. But this one, obviously, as you may have noticed, is completely disintegrated. I've never seen an LBO crystal do that before. I know they were hygroscopic, but I didn't realize they were that hygroscopic. So that's kind of where we're at with this one. So I'm going to take this apart, and we're going to see what we can do. And so that is what's left of this crystal. Not a lot. It's got a big nasty crack in it, couple, and it's completely opaque almost the entire way through, and the ends are just completely, I would be hard pressed to even call that a crystal anymore. It's crystalline, but it's not a crystal anymore. So I need to find a replacement crystal that size to go in here with the correct AR coatings on it and the correct cut. Oh, what a nightmare. I think this thing sat outside. Based on the corrosion in it, I think it was out. There was extreme humidity that this thing was hit with, which caused this crystal to fail. Among other problems, there's some corrosion on some contacts and leads inside the power supply. But the power supply works and the diodes are okay, which is surprising. The crystal has seen a better day, that's for sure. I don't know how toxic this is, so I'm not really going to lick my fingers, you know? I haven't really read the MSDS on LBO, but I'm going to just kind of try and measure it now with the micrometer and take some notes. So with this way on the crystal, which is different, as you may notice. So actually, the crystal is 0.92 inches, or 2.35 millimeters, in one axis, like this, and in the other axis, this may not be super easy for you to see, I have to see it to do it. It's slightly larger. Something to the order of, I don't know, but I want to say about 3 millimeters, 3.13 mil. I'm going to attempt to do something crazy here. I'm going to try and take a piece of the crystal out of the mount and see if I can measure both sides of it. Yeah, okay, it does come out. And the long axis of the crystal, or whatever is left of it, the long axis of that crystal, 2.95 mil, okay? The thinner axis of the crystal, 2.38, 2.37 mil. And then the length hasn't changed. The length is still basically whatever the length of this is, which was like 17.2 or whatever. And just for reference, that crystal is narrow on one axis and long on the other. So the narrow axis, the narrow side, the shortest width, okay, of the crystal, which is that 2.32 mil, that's the side that sits against this mount, okay? That, it will not focus on this, that then goes into this mount here, like, not like that, the other way, actually, like that. And that crystal sits in there like that. Okay, so that's how it would have come out. Loosely speaking. It's a little fucked up now, but remember to bleep that. But yeah, that's kind of how that goes in there. So Now I've gone and got it stuck in here. But I don't know how. I guess I'll clean that with isopropyl alcohol or something in there. I don't really know how to clean that. I feel like it's got to be pretty clean though. I guess if the crystal is hygroscopic, it's probably water soluble, so I guess a little bit of water would probably dissolve it. Yeah, so we order one of those. Make some phone calls, send some emails next week, see if I can find a company that'll provide one. Anyways, that's that. So I think I'm just going to put all of that in here. Seems like a mistake right now, but we're going to do it anyways. And we're going to wrap this up and close up the laser. Okay, there's the parts. All the little ones. Great. Okay. Well, let's see if we get a crystal.